my life, my schedule, it's not all in my hands. It's in bigger hands than mine. I am not in full control of my life. It's to say, if the Lord wills, is to admit I'm not in control. What that is it's a way to embrace life as a gift to be received rather than something to be controlled. You never know when your life might change, right? When things go, because you get going with a routine and things are going well, and then suddenly, it's not going well. It's why is that? How does that happen? Like for us, for my family, our kids have been sleeping through the night as they ought to. And then last night, one of them stopped sleeping through the night and we kept Rachel up like almost half the night. So what is going on? Things were going well and then they weren't. So, you never know when your world might change. We went on a family vacation, a month ago, and is at a beach house in Oregon. It was awesome. We were having some fun. All the kids were getting along. Like, this is a great family moment. And then we get home thinking like, man, we can ride the momentum here of everyone liking each other. And instead, I found myself Googling, how do you deal with sibling rage? Because they're like, what happened? We were a happy family. And so you never know when things will change. One night when I was in grad school, my roommates and I were hosting a cookie movie night, and I had no idea that this beautiful woman named Rachel would walk through the door, and a few years later I would marry her. Another time I was in a staff meeting. I thought I was going to sit through a really boring staff meeting, but then I get a call from Rachel saying, hey, I'm in labor. Okay, skipping out on the staff meeting. And, 5 years ago, we were all going about our lives, and then COVID-19 happens. We're like, wow, none of us were expecting that. We weren't planning on that, right? And no one saw it coming. Life can change so quickly, for good or for bad. And I've heard so many stories from friends and family that show how quickly life and things can change. Someone goes in for a routine medical procedure, and they never make it back home. An email informs you you've been laid off and your secure job has evaporated. The market dives and half your retirement vanishes. Your child is healthy, catches a cold, and doesn't wake up the next morning. Those are all true stories from people I've known. Life is fragile. It's so fragile. And whether it's life and death or like I was joking about my family, things are predictable. Life is so consistent and predictable until it's not. And so James, the author of the book of James from the New Testament, he knew this feeling of fragility, that life is fragile. And he asks us a very blunt question, basically, in this passage that we're going to look at today. It's just, what are you going to do with that? What do you do with the fragility of life? Do you admit it? Do you ignore it? Do you run from it? Do you try to control it? What do you do with fragility of life? So James writes in chapter 4, verse 14, he says, you don't really know about tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for only a short while before it vanishes. Now, James it's not cynicism there. It's just realism. This is reality. So what do we do with that reality? What do you do with that truth that life is fragile? For many people, for many of us, we rush toward one of two survival strategies. Life is fragile. Okay, what are we going to do? There's kind of two responses we may have. So first, there's the control response. The hustlers, the efficiency experts. This is the world of achievement addiction, or strategic planning, optimization, performance identity. We try to control things to try to make it less fragile. So, these types of people, it's all about building the life that you want and never showing weakness. If there's a motto for the control response, it'd be, if it's going to happen, I've got to make it happen. So because of that, we optimize our morning routine. We dial in the college fund. We get the right job title. We work the overtime to reach our financial goals. We listen to podcasts at 1.75x speed, right? Does anybody speed up this on their podcast? I do that. The control response sees life as something to harness. And so, yeah, sure, it's a crazy world out there, but I can hack it. If I work hard enough, if I learn enough, if I look hard enough, I'll find the loophole. I'll find the cheat code, the hack that will swing things into my favor. I can, for the most part, make my life go the way I want it to, we believe. So that's the control response to the fragility of life. We may be thinking of people, or maybe you're like, oh, that's me, okay. So if you're not sure, here's a symptom check. So 3 questions for you. Number 1, is your calendar packed so tightly that prayer or other spiritual practices seems like a luxury that you can't afford? Oh, it'd be great to have take some time off to spend some time in silence and prayer, but I just don't have time for that. Number 2, does a small, unexpected interruption feel like a personal attack on your peace? I hate getting interrupted. I'm doing something. Do you get upset when you work hard and things still don't go your way? If you've said yes to any one of those questions, then you might be trying to control your life a little too much. So that's one response, the control response. So what's the second response that we might go to? That's the fear response, where we see the fragility of life and we pull back. We're gripped by uncertainty and perfectionism and dread because we're concerned about what if it all falls apart? What if? So I'm going to do everything I can to keep it from falling apart. We're so worried. So we try to protect everything. We protect our time. We protect our kids and our future and our retirement and our health and our reputation at all costs. So we hoard our resources. We keep the emergency fund growing and the generosity is low because, well, I might need it for something. We over-research every decision, every purchase, every ingredient. We agonize over different products. We refresh the news all day long so that we can know every single bad thing that has ever happened. We become experts in all the different ways we could die so that we can be prepared, right? You know those people. And we're constantly anxious because, well, what if my flight gets canceled? What if they lose my baggage? What if talking to my neighbors ends up being really awkward? What if my kids get abducted? What if if I get in a car wreck? What if we lose all of our money? What if it ruins our health? What if it's not safe? What if? And if someone ever is like, whoa, bro, chill, man. Like, it's okay. Your response is like, well, I'm just being careful. I just want to be prepared. Here's a symptom check for you to see if you're coming at life from the fear culture. Number 1, do you rehearse disasters in your mind over and over, and yet they haven't even happened? But you're rehearsing, you're preparing. Is your first instinct to pray or to Google worst case scenarios when something bad happens? Does a new idea or a new opportunity excite you or exhaust you or worry you before you even start that thing? So here's the interesting thing is with control and fear, they look like very different things. They look like opposites, right? But under the hood, they share the same belief, and that is tomorrow depends on me. Yes. So we may live that reality out in different ways with fear or control or whatever, but it's the belief of tomorrow depends on me. So control hustles to master tomorrow. Fear scrambles to avoid tomorrow. But both assume that tomorrow depends on me, and it pushes God to the margins because it depends on me. And James doesn't want us to live that way. So James chapter 4, verse 13 and 14. He says, pay attention, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a town. We will stay there a year, buying and selling and making a profit. And he says, you don't really know about tomorrow. What is your life? You're a mist that appears for only a short while before it vanishes. Now, what's going on here? What is James saying? James is not scolding ambition, because that's what it kind of looks like. He's not scolding ambition. Scripture is full of encouragements to work hard, to plan ahead, to be intentional, and all that stuff. So what James is doing, James is confronting presumption, the subtle habit of talking and acting as if tomorrow is ours to command. I'm the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my destiny. I'm going to build the life that I want. I have earned this. That's what James is speaking against. So we're talking about the behavior and attitude that just removes God from the equation. Planning without prayer. Dreaming without surrender. That's what James is speaking against. In fact, James actually names 2 ways that we shove God out of the picture. One shows up in our schedules and daily activities, like I've mentioned with the control and fear and stuff. The other leaks out of our mouths. If you notice, I skipped a couple verses that we haven't covered yet. So let me back up to James chapter 4, verse 11. So James says, brothers and sisters, don't say evil things about each other. Whoever insults or criticizes a brother or sister insults and criticizes the law. If you find fault with the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge over it. There's only one lawgiver and judge, and he is able to save and destroy. But you who judge your neighbor, who are you? So he's saying, don't speak evil, don't judge. What James is saying is, he's saying, when I tear someone down with my words, whether through a snarky text or a whispered critique or a full-blown rant, I'm doing more than just venting. I'm climbing up into God's chair and announcing, I'll be the judge of this person. And according to James, that slanders God's law of love. And it sidelines the true judges, pushing God, don't worry, God, I got this. And that's not right. We talked more about the power of words a few weeks ago when Pastor Dave preached, and so I won't spend any more time on the power of words because we've covered that. You can catch up on those sermons on our website or on the app. But whether I'm making judgments about people, I'm going to be the judge of this, or if we're just trying to control our future, what we're doing is we're pushing God out of the picture, and we're trying to sit in the driver's seat. I'm in control. This is how it's going to be. So what's the answer? James is saying this is wrong. What do we do about this? How are we supposed to approach life then if we're not supposed to approach it in the ways that I've already talked about? Well, James offers us a third way. Rather than the control or the fear, there's a third way. A way of living that still budgets, still studies for your finals, still sends resumes, still works hard, still makes plans, and yet does it with hands held open. So James chapter 4, verse 15, he says, so here's what you ought to say. So instead of today we'll go to this town and make this money, he says, here's what you ought to say, if the Lord wills. Everyone say that. Say, if the Lord wills.
If the Lord wills.
Very good. If the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. Now, that's not a throwaway phrase. He's not saying just throw in if the Lord wills with, just keep doing what you're doing and then just throw in if the Lord wills. That's not what he's saying. It's not a throwaway phrase or a magic incantation or a holy hashtag where, you might on Twitter go, looking forward to closing the deal, hashtag Lord willing. That's not what he's saying. In the first century world, if you said, if the Lord wills, or God willing, that meant something. It was a confession. It was saying, my life and my schedule sit in bigger hands than mine. So when he's using that phrase, we've maybe in modern day turned it into a throwaway phrase, but it had deep meaning in the ancient culture. If you said, God willing, you're saying, man, my life, my schedule, it's not all in my hands. It's in bigger hands than mine. I am not in full control of my life. And so James is telling us to have a completely different posture towards life. It's to say, if the Lord wills, is to admit I'm not in control. What that is it's a way to embrace life as a gift to be received rather than something to be controlled.